Hello and welcome back to our Power Pop block in this POPtober. I am your host, Milwaukee Washcoon, along with ja boy Jelani Hoon.
I'm here.
Claude will never speak to me again because of that trivia match.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long time coming, Will, so.
It's been fun being your friend, and I understand that you won't talk to me anymore. And Randy, right up above me. Say hi, Randy.
Hello.
Excellent. And we are back for some Pop Aficionados. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Yeah, pretty good.
So, with two new guest stars on the pod for the next month, I think most people are just thinking, who are these weirdos who are sitting with my normal weirdos?
Very weird.
Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of go and, check out your guys' sort of fandoms and nerd interests. What are you guys into? What do you guys like to do with your time? And either of you can go first.
Well, I'm Claude. Hi. I met Jelani and Will through working at like a video game nerd bar that we all went to. And I'd say my fandoms, definitely horror movies, obviously. That's why I'm here for this month. But I also really do I like Star Trek. I'm not good at gaming, but I enjoy talking about gaming. And yeah, I kind of just have a broad understanding of some things. But it's definitely mostly Studio Ghibli, some anime, Star Trek, horror.
Hell yeah. This entire show is kind of a hodgepodge of, nerdy pursuits and not real items, various fictions. So I don't think anyone's going to fault you for that.
Yeah.
All are welcome. That's for sure. What about you, Randy?
It's like an introduction thing, right?
Yeah.
It's been so long.
So long.
People don't realize that you are Pop Samurai royalty in the flesh.
That's crazy.
Randy, of course, goes way back into the days when this was just audio. One of the foundational members. So, but refresh people's memory.
Well, I'm a filmmaker and a chef and a Comic-Con promoter. And then I met Jelani. He at one of the early venues for the Milwaukee show that we do for MightyCon conventions, and yeah, we just hit it off from there. But Jelani started Pop Samurai, and I was lucky enough to be a guest a couple times, and then I went off the grid for a little bit and didn't do anything fun.
Well, it's good to have you on the show, man. I gotta say.
I appreciate being here. It's been a while, and this is reigniting the passion to be an entertainer.
All right.
Yeah,
well, you guys heard it here first. Big things coming from Randy in the future. We stoked the flames.
Yeah,
I also like Star Wars. I have lots of Star Wars. Star Wars is Star Wars, and then Pokemon, Power Rangers, all that fun stuff.
I got my Darth Vader back here. I feel you.
Yes, I saw.
Yeah, Randy is OG Pop Samurai. When he was on, we roped him into when we did our very first convention, which was MightyCon, actually. We had a table there. We set up little audio things. We were doing interviews, and then I roped Randy into it, and he was down, and we just headed off from there. Every time we did one of the conventions that Randy was running, we would have him on just because we wanted him on, and we had some fun doing podcasts back then. Randy was running a podcast at that time as well. Back when we were doing the audio stuff, we went and guest starred on his hot eating challenge show that he had at one point.
Flame on, yes.
Ooh, that sounds so fun.
You completely tortured us, Randy.
It's great. It was great.
I'll never forgive you for that, but at the same time, had a blast.
Yes.
Randy, do you have a favorite hottest food in Milwaukee that you want to talk about?
Whenever we're up there, we usually go to there's this bar right by the venue we have up there at the Wisconsin State Fairground, which 2 weeks from now there's a show is still happening with all the safety precautions and stuff there. So they haven't stopped yet, but there was Tom Ken's Bar and Grill.
Oh
And
yeah,
there's another
Tompkins
bar
is
and grill.
incredible.
And every once in a while, their hot sauce, because every 2 weeks they do a surprise like special sauce, either sweet and spicy or both. And this one time, they just had this Carolina Reaper like squealing pig bacon habanero Reaper thing, and it like killed me, and I love it. So every time I go there, unfortunately, if they don't have a super hot sauce, we go somewhere else, which is just as good. But it's usually hot wings up there in Milwaukee.
Hell yeah. I'm considering like getting some and putting myself through that torture to like
I still
appease
eat food,
Claude,
Johnny.
for I feel that I have
Your
wronged her.
penance. Your penance.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm having like a PTSD like flashbacks to the 10 hot wings we did, Randy.
Dude, that sounds
You know
so
what's
fun.
funny, dude? I'm thinking of bringing that back.
Oh,
Oh.
God.
Now we have new people to torture, Jelani.
And see, this is the thing. I've always said to Randy, listen, I'll do whatever show you want me to do, but you know, and I'll commit myself to it. But you keep doing these hot shows, I don't know if I'm gonna keep doing it.
The benefit though now is it's all healthy now too, not just delicious and spicy. It's got to be healthy because I can't
Yeah.
eat that crap anymore.
I volunteer as tribute. That sounds like a lot of fun.
We got to torture. I mean, we have to invite him.
Yeah. Speaking of torture, you know, we're doing this whole like POPtober monster movie bracket and what have you. Let's talk about some horror, you guys. Like what to you goes into like a really great horror movie? Because I feel like we don't just get into the nitty-gritty analysis enough. And so I'd love to hear from people who appreciate the form. What the hell is the point to a normie like me?
Claude, let's start with you.
And again, we don't have
No
to take
pressure.
turns. The game is over. So anybody who wants to talk, feel free.
I don't know. I think the horror movies that I always find the scariest, and that I like generally want to, you know, go see or show friends, are ones of like hauntings or possessions or like anything where somebody's getting abducted. Like anywhere that you're not in control and something's doing something to you, and it gets that like psychological side to it because it's something that shouldn't exist. Like those are the ones that like really actually like, you know, get your adrenaline pumping, get you scared, stuff like that. So like when the movie Fifth Kind came out, I like that one was a rough watch for me. And I had like just gotten my tonsils out and I was on like a lot of pain meds and like watching I had to like stop it a couple times. I was like, nope, can't do this, too high. Like but that one definitely
Do you
scared the
still
shit out of
get
me.
scared? Like as you're going to movies now, do you still get scared a lot or
uncomfortable, I would say.
Mhm.
Like that eerie like tension feeling you get, but
Yeah.
it's not so much like I get home and I need to sleep with the lights on or something like that. But yeah, definitely I'd say I definitely still feel tense with some of them.
Mm-hmm. And so like the ones that do still really get you, are those considered really good movies if they can still get you going?
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
Nice, right on.
Mm-hmm.
Randy, what about you, man? What draws you to being scared for no good reason?
I don't know. I think being able to watch something and then like at least in the back of your mind still know like, oh, this isn't actually happening to you and normally it wouldn't really happen. Like that gives me the thrill.
Mm-hmm.
But like the more realistic horror, like where it, like The Purge, but not The Purge because that,
Mhm.
yeah. But like stuff like that, things that are more real, like those type of movies, like oh, the person next door is a psychopath and he's been nice to you for 5 years on purpose because one day you're gonna go out to your car and he's gonna knock you out and he's gonna turn you into a teddy bear in his basement. Stuff like that is scary. Like
Mhm.
that gets me going because that could be, I guess, like to get really scared nowadays, the movie has to seem like real.
Yeah.
But I don't want to lie and say that like jump scares don't make me go when I'm in a movie theater because it happens to me all the time.
Sure. Cheap
So
thrills,
I still
man.
technically get scared, but not like fear, like traumatized scared, like oh my god, like that just bothers me. No, usually nowadays it's like newer movies, especially all the remakes. It's just like the random jump scare. Like they'll make it really. There was a really good one in The Invisible Woman recently. That was like the last movie I saw in theaters. And like before the pandemic, and there's a nice jump scare in there that like because it was really tense, and then it happens, and I was just like and that one got me. But then there's these other movies where it's just I feel embarrassed after getting scared from a jump scare, but like.
But also, it got you there a little bit.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
You mentioned you're a filmmaker. Have you tackled any indie horror?
The thing, like, I'm actually like currently, I just got like a new cabin up in Michigan, and there's like a river and a lake. So I've had a couple ideas going, but unfortunately, the only like horror things I've made, they're usually comedies. Because when I'm a former big fat dude, so I was like funny and all that stuff. But the two I did do that are scary. They were like paranormal related because like I'm into like the ghost hunting and everything and all that stuff. So like things that like I've seen and experienced, I use that for the movie. So like I've made like paranormal thrillers, but they're not really horror movies because I haven't found like the right idea to make personally because so many good people do it already. So it has to be unique because there's a lot of garbage out there, but then there's every once in a while you get some good gems. So
sure. Well, I mean, most of the genre is driven by the idea of like the B movie, and some of them just end up happening to be, really good, have some staying power. So, I guess the point I'm making is it's really cool to think about, even in an indie space, someone can create something pretty cool. Jelani, you've been really quiet.
Hi, I'm Jelani.
I'm gonna cut off Randy for a second to say hello, and then go back to him because he's new and exciting, and I always see you.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I will come back to. This is actually Jelani's scariest moment. Is all his friends just like abandoning him on his own show. Which isn't happening. Sorry, Randy, if you can somehow remember what you were about to say.
I can't.
Good! Jelani, now it's your turn!
Funny thing is, that's my favorite thing to do to Randy, is that when he's going to try to make a point, we break him, and then he can't remember it. And it's happened plenty of times on our podcasts with him.
Oh, man. Noted.
But so horror for me, I'm in a category of people that is scientifically noted as a scared little beep, but I cannot really take horror films all that well. I'm what's the word? An empath. I really emotionally invest myself with characters a lot. And so horror films can be very draining. Because like I'll cry in any film, I'll cry in anything that happens, and I'll be scared at everything as well. So it's my range of emotions with film is all over the place. But for me, the things that I appreciate about horror is if when a horror film has something to say, right? And they actually have like something that makes you think afterwards. I'm not a big fan of the jump scare movies, but I've appreciated some of them. But there are some out there, some films that are really great into tension. They can balance that tension, uncomfortableness, and sometimes even realism. But also
the name that's coming to my head right now is like Jordan Peele. Like some of the stuff he's putting out.
Jordan Peele is doing a really great job with that right now. I'm a big, again, surprise, the international review guy here. My knowledge of horror films comes a lot from overseas. So Thai horror.
Did you see Infection?
No, I've not seen it yet. I have not.
They took it off every streaming platform.
Yeah, so
I'm so upset about it.
Why did they do that?
It was something that, according to what I've been seeing, is like I saw it. My stepmom showed it to me when I was in probably high school, maybe early college at the latest. And then it was streaming on things, and like it's one of those horror movies where it's supposed to be the monster is something like unseen, but it's like a psychological horror film where you don't know if like it's really happening or not. But like it got put on streaming services, and then it seemed like as soon as everybody started like catching up with it or wanting to watch it, they took it off. Because I wanted to show my roommate like a week or two ago, and we couldn't find it anywhere. I think you can buy it on like Amazon to be delivered to your house. Like it's not like streaming.
Yeah. So,
but I don't know why.
So for me, Japanese horror is very much like where I stay. Again, for me, like I love that the atmosphere that they bring. But of course, not all Japanese horror films are great. But there's the four pillars of Japanese horror, which is Ringu, Ju-on, Pulse, which I think Claude has seen with
Yeah,
a
me and
friend of
Taylor
ours,
watched it a couple weeks ago.
and Suicide Club, which are considered like the four pillars of like great Japanese horror, because they are not considered like jump scary films like the later Rings and stuff like that, and later Grudges, sure, but the earlier stuff actually had kind of like a message and actually had something to say about like technophobia, like with Ring with the tape and phones, Pulse with the internet and things like
Hmm.
that. So like it was all just like based around that. So like I appreciate films that talk about stuff like that, and things that actually kind of like make you think, also kind of things that are films that are really into that way of like making you feel like, could this be kind of like a real thing or not?
Mhm.
Uh, uh, you know, One of my favorite films that I'll shout out this film and I'll review it at some point during this month as well. Maybe you guys will get a chance to watch it, but there's a film that's available on Prime, Amazon Prime, I think for rent only, but it's a film called it's spelled Nor IO, I think. The Curse is what it's called. Nero or something like that. The Curse. It's a Japanese film, and what it does is it takes the found footage genre of uh of horror films and turns it into trying to make it feel realistic by making it not just like someone holding a camera and shaking all the time. What it does is it follows a paranormal investigator as he investigates these, like, I think 5 different paranormal events, and it follows him like a documentary crew. So it actually plays on your idea that, oh, documentaries equals real, you know?
Hmm.
So it doesn't just do the tropey like found footage like crap that it does. What it does is it brings in like that feel of like cutting in like interviews with like experts and doing like news clips that were made and stuff like that. And so it feels like you're watching like a documentary instead of a found footage film. And but it's actually like based around like someone going through and checking out these really horrifying like paranormal events that happen. So highly recommend that if you're looking for something that's more of like a tension but also brings like that, this feels real, and it's kind
Hmm.
of off-putting a little bit. So
I believe
highly
I
suggest that.
found it. It's called No Roy,
No, Roy, I'm sorry.
the Curse. And
So,
yeah, it looks freaky. I should point out, like I said earlier, I'm not much of a horror film fanatic, which is weird because my parents were. They were big into horror, and that's probably why I didn't get into it. But this already has me going like, ooh, I don't know if I could do that. So that is why I am running it and not participating. Uh, yeah, I don't know. Uh, so I'm gonna hit you with something right now, Jelani.
Yeah.
You do the international reviews, but most of them come out of, I'd say, Eastern Asia. Is that fair to say?
Sure, yes.
Do you ever hit any other areas? Because you think about all of like the old wives' tales from like Scandinavia, and there are plenty of other places to get your horror fix from. You
Oh
got
yeah,
any
for
notable
sure.
stuff out there?
Yeah, there's some notable stuff that is out there. I enjoy I For me being of Southeast Asian descent, I
Hmm.
tend to enjoy that area of
Of
like
course.
Thai, Vietnamese horror. I love the Chinese horror as well, Japanese horror. But then uh you got like a lot of films that are being made in other countries, like in Germany or I don't want to like misspeak on like where they're all from, but Germany and like Sweden and things like that. That you
Hmm.
have some quiet thrillers that are more, they're kind of horrific. Um, I think there's like the film I want to say Goodnight Mommy or something like that that released out there with like there was, I think, a German horror film that was well liked by people. I didn't like it, but you know, that was me. But off the top
Let's
of my
just
head,
say it would have made my list from the first game.
Yeah, for
Would have
me,
been tops there.
Yeah, I can't think of ones off the top of my head at the moment, but I know that there are some like very prolific and very iconic ones from other countries that a lot of people really enjoy.
How much of that do you think plays into, like, do you think it's just a cultural thing where maybe you wouldn't get as scared because you don't connect with the films? Or is it just that you don't seek them out?
Well, I think the genres we have in film, like comedy, action,
Mhm.
horror, whatever, I think they are all equally loved by in all different cultures. But I
Yeah.
think it all depends on like what the filmmakers have to say, you know.
Mhm.
So I mean, my key knowledge is from Japan, but like the four pillars of the Japan horror cinema that I just brought up were, you know, Ringu, Ju-on, Pulse, and Suicide Club. Those all had something to say, and from there was a lot of carbon copies, like trying to ramp up the horror, super CGI remake after remake after remake. And so like the film genre right there, there was like a spike and then a drop. It all depends on like when you have someone when you have a director that has a vision to bring something to the table and has something to say. You know,
Mhm.
like now in on the States side, we're getting Jordan Peele, who
Yeah.
has something to say. He has something to say, and people are very interested in what he has to say in his horror films. And so it's like everyone's looking at that and looking at the social commentary from that. And a lot of horror films have social commentary in them, and you know, kind of like underlying meanings behind them. The great ones, of course. Of course,
Yeah.
you have like the "I'm a hatchet man and I'm gonna kill you"
Mhm.
type of stuff, but then you have films that really tackle like hard subjects in the background that you kind of, after you watch it the first time, you're scared. You watch it the 100th time, and you're like, that I caught a new thing. That was another meaning that I caught from that. You know.
I'm just
So
sitting here pondering the deeper meaning of Piranha 3D. I don't know. Gotta be something there. They've got something to say.
yes.
Claude, gore or no gore? Does gore add anything to the film? I know you said you're kind of more of the control.
For me, no. Like, you know, who did Green Inferno? Was that Quinto? Zachary Quinto?
Green Inferno?
Or Zachary, yeah.
No. The director of that was Eli Roth.
Eli Roth. Why do I?
Mhm.
Because they look relatively similar, so I think they're the same person.
Eli Roth.
Like, everybody was talking about, like,
Oh damn, he
you know,
does
people
look
had
like
to
Zachary Quinto.
see, they're exactly the same person.
Sorry.
I think it's all a conspiracy. But like, people were saying they had to leave that theater. They couldn't deal with it. Like, people were passing out and stuff like that. And I was just like, this isn't adding anything. Like, I don't understand why we had to like, why did we rip out that dude's eye? I get it, we're cannibals, but like, why is this like causing everybody to freak out? It doesn't add a whole lot to me.
Mhm.
Like, mine is more of like, it has to be done really, really well. Like, let's take, I'm just gonna look it up really quick. Katie Holmes did a really ridiculous scary movie, with
Recently?
like these little like goblin things that were in like a house.
Don't be afraid
yeah,
of the dark.
Guillermo del Toro's Goblin things.
Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, maybe.
No. It wasn't that.
I'm looking it up right now.
I can't look anything up. My phone's the camera.
Sorry.
The
I know it was
scariest
Guillermo, and I
the
can't.
scariest
Oh, no, it
thing
is.
for Randy is the tape not holding right now.
I'm gonna try to
It
get a
is
webcam
the Don't Be
before
Afraid of
next
the Dark
Thursday.
film.
Oh, is it?
Nonsense.
Okay.
Yeah,
you don't
it
need
is.
to
My bad.
change a thing.
So like that had like very weird like little gremlin things that were like trying to get at the daughter, and like she's a stepmom or something like that trying to protect him. And there was like minor gore because they were like poking people with little needles or like, you know, doing all these little trickeries. But like there is a pretty graphic scene where somebody gets like reverse knees in the
Ooh.
movie. And that's the only time I was like, this actually added something, because it was like the power of like the fear in it. Like when it adds something like that and it's adding like a detail of like how high pressure the situation was, or like what people are willing to do to survive, then I'm okay with it. If we're just like sitting there like, I don't know, human centipeding people for no reason, like it's lost on me. Like I'll see it because, you know, those are the classics and shock value, I guess, but
Yeah.
it doesn't add a whole lot of the fear factor for me.
You know, when you said that about the knee going backwards, I'm like, what would scare me more? A dude like bleeding out on the floor, or like someone's leg going the wrong way? And
Yeah.
100% that's just like, no, never.
Because it seems like something that could like actually like happen. Like what happens is somebody gets caught in a situation, I mean, where there's a lot of force and it just pops the knees back.
I
Totally
mean,
could happen.
it's happened plenty of times in sports, and it's always horrific, you know?
What happens
Yeah.
if someone
So,
just
like,
gets
there's
caught in
not,
that
like-
situation? When you just
There's
like
not like blood, there's not like
Get your
gore.
knee
She
popped
just
out.
And
and
there's
I was
not
done.
yeah, there's like no explanation for it. It's like, why did this horrible thing happen? Well, because it happens sometimes.
Mhm.
And that's terrifying.
Yes.
Like, yeah. Randy, what about you, man? Like, what really kind of gets you there? Is it the gory, or is it the loss of control, like Claude said?
Some gory movies I don't even like that are supposed to be scary. It's so over the top sometimes that I'll like personally, because I'm weird, put that in like almost like like a comedy category. Like
Mhm.
some of these movies you just watch, it's like you're gonna laugh because of how outrageously dumb and like far fetched. Like the first two Final Destination movies are awesome because
Mhm.
that could actually happen. Those types of accidents and pileups, like in the second film, can happen. Even a couple of things in the third movie with like the roller coaster, like that's a real fear.
Mhm.
Heights, roller coasters breaking down, that's awesome. And then the later movies, it's just like they upped up the CG and like way too
Yeah.
much gore. You knew it was gonna happen, and it was you were cheering and laughing more than like you're like on suspense and on edge and everything, and like the whole illusion that like death is after them but you can't see it. So is it just like this force that like the earth, like someone or the earth created, like death is natural, or is it actually like death with the scythe trying to kill him? And then it just turned into like a joke towards the end. It's like
Dude.
it has
I remember seeing one of those films, and like I said, I don't see many, but one of the scenes, and it might have been one of the early ones, a dude's standing in the middle of a field and he gets like chopped into little bits by a flying barbed wire fence.
yeah.
And I just cracked up because I'm like, there's no way that happens. It totally takes you out of the moment, you know?
Yeah, that was in the second one too. So even then, even after the first one, they started kind of like, oh, we have to throw in some more extra like we had Stifler in the first one from American Pie, and he was funny. So we have to keep adding characters who are stoners and funny, and then we have to throw this in there, and it's just sometimes it just ruins it. So I think gore has to be balanced well, because you could be in the mood for a gore, you could be in the mood for a Saw film, or you could be in the mood for like a horror movie, and I think there's a big difference there.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
what do you
yeah.
think? What do you think about like the Saw films with you have an option for how you want to get mutilated film? Like, I know that there have been a million of them now, but like, I don't know. I think that's terrifying because presented with that choice between two horrible outcomes, which do you choose? Especially as someone who, like, I think most of us like to think we're pretty logical and intelligent. But like you sit there running through the ideas in your brain and it's just freaky to even think about. Jelani, you ever like those psycho thrillers? Is that something you're into, or does there have to be something like concrete, like chasing you?
So, again, a lot of my films that I enjoy a lot, I find it best when there isn't a lot of explanation to you. When there's a lot of things the things that aren't seen are the scariest, right?
Mhm.
Like, I mean, classic Jaws, like you don't see the shark for, I don't know, like an hour and a half of the movie or something like that, and it's the scariest thing in the world because, I mean, for me, one of my biggest fears is like I don't know what's in water. You know, I could be at a
Mhm.
pool looking at the clear water, is like there's, I don't know, some sort of invisible creature there if I jump in the deep end. You know, but for me, I find when a lot of films that have something to say will give you something that you can't really fight against and don't know why, right? I'll bring up The Pulse from a Japanese horror that was built on like technophobia of people, of something that's happening to people. It's making them lose their will to live, right? You don't know what's happening, you don't know what's going on. It's very artistic. There aren't like jump scares. There are tense moments, and a lot of the scary things are kind of pantomimed and like very artsy, kind of like slow, and it's old school in that way. But you don't see like a killer in a mask or something like that, or some evil wizard or something like that making people not want to live or things like that. It's scary because you're thinking about it and you're trying to figure out like I don't know how I'd feel about, you know, being in a world where like you just start seeing people lose their will to live by something that's happening that everyone uses every day, which at that point in The Pulse, like that was when Japan was just getting internet, and so they made something off of that, and building off like a technophobia. And so I find that like very scary. I think in the chat that someone brought up right now that like one of my favorite films technically could skirt the line of like very gory. It's one of my favorite films to show to people and kind of talk to them about, but it's a movie called I Saw the Devil. It's a Korean
Taylor made
film.
me watch that. Yeah.
Did you watch it?
After you watched it with her.
It is one of the most uncomfortable movies you'll ever watch because it follows a serial killer who does these murders, and they're in gory detail. They show a lot of things, and the scariness about it is like he was kind of just like, I mean, he was a shit dude, but like to people around him, he was kind of just a regular dude. And you follow someone who he wrongs, who just wants to make him go through the most horrible shit ever. And so there is kind of just like the skirts this line of like it's very gory, it pushes the line a lot, but it also skirts the line of trying to like bring like, is this movie about revenge, or is this movie about someone dealing with grief? You know, is this movie dealing with how horrifying something could be? You can do everything right, you can lock your windows, you can roll up your windows, you can lock the door, and something still happens to you if you do everything right. And you know, it's unsettling. You know, I think that's what it is for me that sets off like this is a great movie and it's a great film, not just a great horror
Mhm.
film.
Okay. I think this is the last question we have time for, so I'll shoot it to all of you. Is there another medium that can match the horror movie? And what I mean by that is we cover, you know, anime, we cover video games, we cover tabletop and board games and books and everything on this show. Can anything really stack up to a movie when it comes to horror?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's our show for this week. No, give me some examples, you guys. Like if
Superhero
I'm
genre.
someone
I think there's
who,
got to be
if
like a
I'm
plethora
someone
of
who
video
wants
games.
to be scared, and like, do you have any favorite other pieces of horror media that you can recommend
Outside of movies,
Oh,
yeah.
outside of
I mean,
movies?
shit.
play the Silent Hill games.
Yes, but
That-
I got confused.
Silent Hill, incredible. No, I love that. Like, yep, we're just gonna end the show.
No.
Super fun.
Books are really good for like horror. Like Stephen King, he started in books. First of all, I thought the question was, is there another film that can compare to horror? And I was like, yes, another genre, of course. And now I feel stupid.
Anything be that good? Yes.
Horror, like a different medium besides film. Definitely books. There's some books that haven't even been adapted yet something my grandma read where it was about it was it was like a German like creature that I never even heard of, and it was like following this family and like just the way it was detailed. Like I never saw like I read half of the book and then I didn't read the rest of it because I was like 14 and I was just like, all right, well I don't want to read any more of it because I have to go to sleep tonight. There's school tomorrow. So yeah, books. That's my answer. Books.
Claude, you mentioned the Silent Hill games.
I'm like any sort of, so I like playing horror video games. Reminder, I am terrible at all video games, but I still give it a college try.
That's the spirit.
But like, when I have most played them, I play them with my friend Topher, and it's probably like if you could stream just that amount of people having like visual reactions to like jump scares and things like that, like horror games for me, because you're like in it, it feels like you're in it and you're participating in it. So like Silent Hill, Resident Evil games drive me insane. Even like little things, like I really like the game Little Nightmares, which you just play a little demon in a little raincoat. You're trying to get out of like a ship. I have
Sounds
to pause
adorable.
and like pace because like even though it's just like this tiny little thing and you're just avoiding all these creatures, like the tension of almost getting caught by them is like too much.
Hell yeah. Jelani, you consume a lot of media. What else you got out there that scares you?
All right.
Smokes magazines.
Well, I mean, jumping off of that, I'll continue a little bit on Claus, and I'll jump onto mine. But yeah, video games is a great medium for horror. There have been some classic video games out there that have done horror to great effect. You know, you have great games like I guess you could count Five Nights at Freddy's, but I mean that's more of a jump scare game. But like it does give you the atmosphere, especially in VR. I love VR as a horror.
Oh God, it's terrifying.
Genre. It's terrifying. I mean, Will, you played that Batman game with me, and that one just had a couple scares in it. That was like, okay,
but they were pretty intense. Yeah. Well, the Five Nights at Freddy we did VR too, and the first 3 times that I fucked up, it really scared me. Then the subsequent like 10 times, I'm like, okay, can I just figure this out?
It's that shocking, thing. But the games that really stand out to me are like some of the indie stuff, where they're drawing inspiration from like classic games like Fatal Frame or Silent Hill or Amnesia, where they're more about giving you that tense underline, where you just feel tense the whole time and you don't know what you're doing. There's like some great indie games on Steam right now that are out there that are doing some really great like paranormal gameplays. One of my favorite ones to watch right now, and I really want to play, but I don't have the great computer for it. I hope to upgrade it soon. But there's a paranormal game where you are a paranormal investigator. You can play multiplayer with friends, and you can go into a house and you have to categorize what is haunting the house. So you have to go through and you bring in all the classic like ghost hunting things, the EMF.
That's awesome.
The ghost box, the book for them to write in, and you have to go around and it uses local chat. So you have to actually ask for is someone here? Is someone here? You have to walk around the house.
What is the name of this?
That's really cool.
I want to say Phasmagoria
oh my God, that's awesome.
So it's really cool, and it's in early development right now or something like that. But it looks really great, and I want to do like a multiplayer gameplay one day with everybody. But it's super fun. But for me, like my big answer for this question is I think tabletop can be really used to great effect if you have the right set of circumstances. You have a great story and you have something to say. Will, we've played Dread a couple times, which is a great role-playing game that has a very simple concept. You create like a horror movie setting. You have the characters make decisions in the game, and the way that it's either goes through or not is you have a Jenga tower, and you just have a character go up and pull a block, right? And every time they pull a block, the tower gets more rickety. And of course, like if the tower falls, their character dies, or something bad happens. And so you build that tension by looking at this tower, and you want to do things, but then you don't at the same time with how tense it can be. And you add in some mood, lighting, music, and some great narrative to it. And I think you can really execute really great horror gameplay for people in their mind's eye. And that's another great thing of video games are great. They can show you things, but when it's in your mind, like books, when it's in your mind and you're like hearing a narrative happen in your mind and you have like this tense thing happening, it's the scariest thing in the world, because nothing's scarier than what's in your own mind, so.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know. Trust me.
Awesome. All right. Well, any parting thoughts before we wrap this up? Go turn on a scary movie. Yeah. I like the confidence. That's the true scary thing, is Claude's got your number. She's coming for you. Not me, of course, because we're super good friends and I would never do anything to hurt her. Yeah. But you know what? Turn out the lights. Go put on a scary movie. It's October, baby. Let's go. Everybody get into it. And I think I'm going to wrap it up there. So thank you to my co-hosts, Jelani, Claude, Randy. This has been a lot of fun. This has been your host, Will Walkie Washkoon, signing off. We will see you next week for our big bad bracket and the continuation of POPtober. See you then. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Will our heroes podcast survive? Spread the word, subscribe, and tune in next time. Same Pop Samurai time, same Pop Samurai channel.